Content warning. This episode contains discussions about domestic violence. Listener discretion is advised. If you or someone you know is affected, please seek support from local resources or helplines. An-Nisa's helpline is 832-324-9111. You are not alone. Hello and welcome to Let's Talk, Chatter That Matters. My name is Maria, and I'm here with a very special guest today. She is the founder, the powerhouse of An-Nisa. Her name is Bibi Khan. Welcome.
Thank you, Maria. How are you?
Alhamdulillah, I'm doing really well. How are you doing?
Good. Excited to be on your podcast finally.
Alhamdulillah. We're very excited to have you here, and I'm sure all the listeners are excited as well. As you know, this month is DV month, domestic violence month, and we thought, who else better than Bibi Khan to be here? So I want to just start straight into it. Can we talk about domestic violence, and can you start with just explaining what is domestic violence?
Yes, so that's a great question. And even though we think that everybody knows what domestic violence is, a lot of people don't know the different kinds of abuse that makes up domestic violence. So, what's important in our community is that we have additional abuse that we need to think about when we talk about domestic violence. So, of course, there's physical abuse, verbal abuse, emotional abuse, and financial abuse. These are the ones that are very common that everybody knows about. But there's also immigration abuse, there's religious abuse, there's legal abuse. All of this is domestic violence. It considers domestic violence. Or more now, I think the better word is a lot of people are using partner violence or family violence. And I think it should be called family violence, not domestic violence. So there's a lot of things that contributes into domestic violence, and it's not only about hitting. A lot of people think, "Oh my God, if I'm not hit, I'm not in domestic violence." No,
Yeah.
because a lot of people come from like different countries. They're here, they know nothing about domestic violence, and then bam, one day they're like struck with all of these different abuses. So that's what domestic violence really is.
Yeah, it's not something that it's not normal. And we need to recognize that even if you think in your culture it is, it's not, and it's not healthy.
So that's a good. I like that. Um, a lot of women or a lot of victims, they do think it's normal. They do think it's routine. It's a part of life. And even people who lived in a healthy family, and then they get married to somebody who's like angry or abusive. When the abuse starts, they're like, oh, maybe everybody gets abused. Maybe everybody gets beat. Maybe it's a part of life. And they don't really talk about it until they're deep in it, and it's hard to get out of it.
Yeah, and that's dangerous. That's really dangerous, and like we said, it's not healthy at all. But now, kind of diving in a little deeper, like to explain you and An-Nisa, can you share with us, why did you start An-Nisa? Why did you start this organization?
So it was in 2009 that it was Ramadan, and we went to one of the masjid. There was this woman with her 10-year-old daughter, and she had no place to go. She actually slept in the masjid the night before, and now she was sitting at a table where we were having iftar there, and with no idea where she was going to take her 10-year-old daughter, where they were going to live. I just started to think, like, just looking at her daughter's face, like she was in fear, like a 10-year-old being in fear. That really, really, like, struck something with me. And I'm like, oh my gosh, we can't allow this to happen. Imagine all of these people who have no place to go, or they're kicked out of their house at night. So on the way home, myself and Christina, who is like the co-founder with me, we came up with the idea and started the organization. We were like, oh my gosh, what would we do? So then we just immediately said, no, we have to do something. Within a month, we had the shelter open. It was like so fast. We went home the next day. We applied for like a corporation. Then we said we need to do a nonprofit, and within a month we had everything going because it was so necessary. So this is the main reason why that happened. We just couldn't have more women in situations where they had no hope, right?
Right,
It was
right.
all about building hope for them.
Mm.
And it wasn't about getting them divorced, it was about getting them in a safe place, figuring out how we can help, maybe get them back with their husband, get the husband help, get the wife help, whoever was
Yeah.
the abuser. Um, and and that's how it all started.
Yeah, sometimes it's not even the family that can help or your friends. You have to go somebody else who's a professional.
And the name Anissa is for that, right? It means the woman.
Yes.
At that point, it was, I mean, 85 to 90% of victims of domestic violence are women. Okay.
Mm.
Yes, men are abused also. And I mean, women can be very difficult too.
Yeah. Yep.
And we have a lot of men who are our clients who have been in a situation where they've been manipulated by their wives, or all that also happens. And women are also physically abusive.
Mhm.
So this is a part of what we're dealing with, and alhamdulillah, we're able to help both the men and the women, whoever need it. We help the victims and we help the abusers. That's what we do.
So, as one of the co-founders of Anissa, how do you feel like you connect with this org from your own experience?
Okay, so I think the most important thing is I felt like, with my own experience of years, about 20 years of being in an abusive situation, I think, it was like a teaching for me. Like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was like putting me through, like, like a learning process where I knew different kinds of abuse, even though I didn't really, nobody believes this when I tell them, but I never even knew something domestic violence existed. I didn't even know that. And then after, I'm like, oh my God, I was in a domestic violence situation. You don't really know. But then you pick up the ends and you get out of a bad situation and you make good with it.
Mm.
Like, I'm like, I don't want other women to go through what I went through or
Yes.
what my children went through. I don't want any kids to go through that, because that was the hardest part, right? Seeing your kids through that.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think everyone should recognize that this is an org that helps people, not just women, people. And who better than someone who actually experienced it and cares for lives, right? And knows that affects children, because we don't want the next generation to also repeat the same cycle. So it's important that we recognize that they're here to help. And then one, we should support them,
Mhm.
because this is also your mom, your sister, your cousin, whoever it may be, your aunt. So let's think twice before we make any judgment. And can we also dive in a little bit more about the different branches in NISA, that like the resources that you have
Yeah.
here? So I know we have like over 18, I think. Is
Yeah.
that right? So can you just state a little bit about some of them?
So, I mean, when we started on this, the first thing we were doing was case working, but we very quickly realized that that was not enough. Okay, because these victims needed counseling,
Mm.
they needed education, they needed to find jobs, there was so many needs and services that they
Yeah.
needed. So every year we would add on a branch to Anissa. So we added on counseling, then we added on, like, financial assistance, that education, job search, and all of that. It was so important to have all of these services. And today Anissa has 18 branches, and all of them contribute to growing a family,
Yeah.
making a family healthier, making the community healthier.
Mhm.
And this is what is so important, you
Mm.
know.
Alhamdulillah, it takes a village to raise a person. And imagine when you don't, at your own home, you don't have your own village backing you up. You have a Nissa as your village
Yeah.
to take care of you,
And
inshallah.
something simple like tutoring, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people cannot go out every day
Yeah.
and cannot afford to pay for tutoring. So we have a free tutoring academy. We have free Quran academy, because we know that these women,
Hmm.
or when they come out of a DV situation, they do not have the finances to this. They're barely putting food on the table for
Yeah.
their children.
Yeah.
So the kids need more help than anybody.
Mm.
And breaking the cycle, Maria, is the most important thing, because look, you have one victim that comes out with three kids.
Mhm.
Okay, now there are four victims out of the situation.
Yeah.
So now what do? You have to help the kids so they don't become, because 85% of the kids that come out of a DV situation, either they turn out to be abusers
Mhm.
or victims of abuse.
Mm.
So if you can build the entire family to strength where they are not going to go through that, it's dynamic.
Mm. Talking about the abuse and abusers, I want to jump into what are the types of abusers that you see, the victims, and the cases that have come through?
So again, I mean, the majority of victims are women, and
Mhm.
yes, they are men. But for me, when I look back now and all the years we've been doing Anissa, I think the real victims are the children.
Mm.
And I see the kids, a lot of them, if we hold on to them and help them grow, they will grow into, very confident adults. But if they're not with confident people or good mentors, they go off and they become, like in vices that they can't get themselves out of.
Right.
Their alcohol, drug addiction, all of these things are just everywhere.
Yeah.
So we see a lot of those. I mean, across the board, it's the same. It's not only in the Muslim community. Domestic violence is the same for everybody. It doesn't matter if you're rich, you're poor, what color you are, what race you are. Domestic violence is one disease that is the same for everybody.
Yeah.
Like you have different diseases that, okay, they say, well, this race gets it more, or sugar comes to this. No, domestic violence is the same for everybody.
Yeah. And a lot of times in our community, the Muslim community, I'm sorry to say this, but they defend the men over everything. Even though they're like, well, they're in charge, they're supposed to take care of the family. Well, there's a way of taking care of the family, isn't there?
So that's one part of it, that definitely the men stick together
Mm.
and they think they're helping their brothers by saying, oh, calm down, go home, but they never try to get a solution. They never try to help them, like, go and get help, which
Yeah.
they need.
Yeah.
A lot of the men cannot do it alone. A lot of the women who are abusers, they cannot do it alone. They need professional help.
Hmm.
So there's a lot of time where I feel that the men cover up for men, but another big problem is the women are constantly forcing women to
Yes.
stay in abusive
Yes.
situation.
Mm.
I've had many clients where their friends are like, "Oh my gosh, but he pays the rent, he pays the mortgage, he puts food on the table." But what good is all of that if you're not even safe in your home?
Yeah.
Your children are not safe. You're bringing up the next generation of kids who are going to suffer through it. And they're going to have marriages, they're going to have kids, and guess what? They're going to become the same.
Yeah.
So if you don't stop the cycle, and our community needs to do better, all community
Yeah.
needs to do better, which is to stop and break the cycle. This is the reason why we have roadmap in Anissa, to break that cycle. Alhamdulillah, it's been very successful. We've had a great success rate. It's around between 95 to 98%
Alhamdulillah.
of saving the marriages, but not only saving it for the sake of, okay, but give them the skills to be better.
Right. Yeah, I agree with what you said. A lot of times, even just our girlfriends, they defend their men, and it's like, well, what about yourself? Don't you value yourself? Don't you love yourself more? Take care of yourself. No, very good points that you've made. Um, and I want to just ask, what from all this experience, what has been the most challenging thing that you faced? I mean, I've seen it firsthand where there's people that come in shouting at you, and you had to put your foot down on some of them, and that's just a small thing. I mean, what has been the most challenging thing for
So I think in the beginning when Anissa started was the most challenging part for
you?
I think everyone who was involved in Anissa. The constant, oh my God, they only want to get people divorced. When in reality, we were trying to save these
Mm,
marriages, right? The rumors that men, women, I mean, I'm not going to blame men only because I did that for many years, but also I realized the women were spreading all these rumors. Oh, they only want to get people divorced. That's not definitely not what we want. What we want is to get people safe.
mm,
We want to get people where they're not in a situation where they'll live their entire life being beaten at home, being cursed.
mm.
That you can't see your family, you can't do that. That's not what we want. We want to teach them how to have healthy relationships. So I think this was the most important thing. The challenges are still there. I mean, Just sometimes, just remember, with every victim that we save, there is an abuser that will be out there talking about us, right?
Yeah.
There will be an abuser family that will be talking about Anissa. But I mean, the women, and because of confidentiality, a lot of times we can't say anything
Yeah.
because there are cases. So we can't really go out and speak and say, oh my gosh, this person's, I mean, we can't do that. So there's many challenges, but alhamdulillah, we've come a long way. Challenges are less.
Mhm.
More people now realize what we do. And a lot of the people who were our enemies have now become friends, alhamdulillah, supporters, because now they see domestic violence is actually a real problem.
Yeah.
They've seen their sisters being abused, their daughters being abused, themselves being abused.
Yes.
And it's amazing the change that we have seen in the community.
Can we talk about that, the identity of the victims? What is the lasting impression, or what do they walk away from? Or just when they're in that situation, we don't want them to feel shame for it because it's not theirs to be shamed about. It's the abuser that should be ashamed for what they're doing. But the victim's identity, like, how can we help them not feel like they should be ashamed of what they're going through and that it's okay to ask for help and walk away?
So, this is one of the biggest problems, right? Because when somebody's in a domestic violence situation, first you have to learn the signs of DV. What are they going through? When you see the woman come to a masjid, before she was very like friendly, social, now she comes and she sits in the back, or she sits by herself, or she's in a corner. Why can't you just go and ask her, hey, what's going on?
Mm.
You were, always out. Now we don't see you anymore. What's going on, right? This is what our community needs to do more instead of judging. This is number one. And that has to stop.
Yeah.
And stop it. Don't ask people, why would you leave? He's so good to you. Or why don't you leave? You're crazy for not leaving. You are not in that person's shoes. You do not know what they're going through and why they can't leave. Maybe they're not financially able to leave right now.
Yeah.
Some but the age of when people usually leave is when their kids are older. When their kids can get out, they feel safe now. I've raised my kids and stuff. Is it healthy? No, it's good when the DV starts to leave early, but it's just a fact that in our community we leave when our kids. I mean, I did it. My son was already an adult when we left. It was not easy either way, but it helped a lot that he was older.
Yeah.
He was able to take care of his sisters and all of that stuff. That made it a lot easier. But our community needs to stop giving advice.
Yeah.
Everybody suddenly becomes a counselor. Oh, you need to do this, you need to do that. No, what we need to do is educate ourselves. How should we speak to a victim? What should we say, what we should not say? That's why we do these classes, so people can be a part of it, to learn it, because it is a problem. 50% of the community is facing DV. 51% of our community has gone through a divorce.
Yeah.
What are we waiting for?
That's serious questions. I just want to reel back a little bit about waiting till the kids get older to leave. I've seen in some the girls I know in the community, and like what is holding them back, you know?
So, Mario, the main reason is if you're married to somebody who is crazy, okay, they're beating you, they're cursing at you, they're cursing at your family. You are now not feeling safe. Okay, the fear is real. So when you have children, it goes to another level. Then you are worried not only about yourself anymore, because usually victims of DVs never worry about themselves. They are only worried about their children. So when a child comes into the picture, everything changes. They rather live in DV for themselves to protect their children. This is a fact. So when that happens, people say, okay, you know what? Let me just put up with it because of my son, my daughter, my children, because they're going to be at least safe.
They will be safe, but not her.
But not you.
Yeah. That is tough. So then how can we change this mentality, or at least advise them, give them some kind of advice to support them so they feel like maybe I can get out. Even if this person's crazy, Allah will be there. Someone will help me.
So, do you want to hear something? The funniest thing, and honestly, this every abuser that we have contacted, because we never take a case at An-Nisa without contacting the other party.
Right.
Because you can hear one part of the problem, but it's not always the way they're saying it is. It's good to always speak to both parties. When you speak to both parties, you get the real picture. Then and only then can you help this family. And the funny thing that I was going to share with you is that we have never contacted somebody who has been accused of abuse, and they didn't want to talk to us. Every single person came in. They wanted us to hear their part of the story. It's amazing. Everybody thinks, okay, they won't. My husband won't talk to you guys, and I'm like, well, we can't take your case if they can't talk to us.
Right.
Every single person spoke to us.
Wow. And this is something that I think, well, how does this relate to helping the women with like getting out of that instead of tolerating the years?
So when you get to a point where I'm kind of done now, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to an organization to get help. I need help. Or sometimes the biggest problem you see now, a lot of men are having another wife, a second wife, right? This is a very, very normal thing now that's happening. So then the woman is like, I don't know if I can take this anymore. I don't know what I can do. So they go out to organizations and they're looking for what are my rights?
Right.
What options do I have? Right?
Right.
So why should I tolerate anymore? Or should I just go? So a lot of times what happens is that they don't want to tolerate it. When you get to that line where you're like, there's no coming back,
Yes.
nobody can bring you that back.
Yeah.
I mean, we have cases where the woman has gone through abuse for many, many years, and now she's like, I'm done.
Yeah.
The husband now wants to make it work, but she's like, I'm done.
Yeah.
There's no turning back now.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of tolerance that goes on in DV, right? Whether it's a woman, a man, whatever, there's a lot of patience that goes on, but at the end, then it's over. It's over.
Yeah, and just know you have your rights. As a man and as a woman, you have your rights. So don't forget them. No matter how crazy the person is, you still have your rights.
But a lot of times a woman don't know her rights, right?
Exactly.
Because a women don't go out looking, oh, what rights do I have? The only time a woman will even think about talking to an attorney or an organization is when she's at the end.
Yeah.
So her whole life she lived not, and then sometimes the abuser tells her, I'm going to take the kids. You're not going to get anything. You will never see the children, or immigration. You will never get your green card. You won't, they don't know all of this stuff, right? They've never,
empty threats in a way.
yeah. And they've never gone out looking for answers. So they don't know.
So you do have rights and you do have resources, something you need to keep in mind. And I'm very happy you spoke about this. And finally, is there a message that you like to give to the community, the abusers or the victims, whoever you may want to address, a message?
So my message would be to everyone is think about your children. It's very important to think about them when you are beating their mother in front of them, when you're cursing at their grandparents or their uncles and their aunts in front of them, when you're actually being toxic to your own children. This is the most unhealthy thing you're doing. This is totally against our religion. It's totally against just nature in the whole, right? So I know a lot of people have anger issues. They don't know how to handle their own vices. Get help. That's very important. Get help. Nobody will judge you. People will judge you because let me tell you something. If you're in a DV situation and your wife or your husband is already looking for help to get out, it's going to happen. So why not get help before it gets to that place that you can't turn back? But another thing is to our community, stop judging. Honestly, this is my biggest thing I see. Stop judging these women. Stop labeling their children And when somebody gets divorced, stop putting them and isolating them because they're divorced. Because guess what? One out of every two of us are getting divorced.
Mm.
So just, be better Muslims, be better human beings, and stop, trying. Islamically, you're supposed to, a man is supposed to take care of his family, right? He's supposed to shelter them, give them clothing, give them food, all of that. But the most important thing is the protection. So if you are beating up on your family, how are you protecting them?
Yeah.
Islamically, you're violating everything that you're supposed to be doing. You are supposed to be the protector of your family. So if that's not happening, and likewise women, right? We are supposed to be being kind to our husband, being kind to our children. It's a two-way street. But if you're beating up on your wife, you can't expect them to just stay quiet forever. That's not fair.
Yeah. Thank you very much for that. And thank you so much, Bibi Khan, for being here. And thank you to everyone at Nisa for taking care of all of our clients and victims. And I hope that everybody else takes it and pushes it out to their community and looks out for one another, inshallah. So thank you once
Thank
again.
you so much, Mario, for having me.